Hello there.
Hey man, how are you?
Good. How are you?
I'm great. I'm great. I mean, it's exciting to be on this podcast with you. I really enjoy doing this. So it's our second one.
Yeah. I know we've for a while we've been trying to get together and stuff, and life just gets so busy and in the way. Um, you know, uh, we've been trying to get together, and we finally did it. So
Yeah, it's funny. I do, as you know, I do a bunch of other podcasts. I do two martial art business podcasts on how to run your school and keep your school relevant and all that. But I've always done little tiny little videos where I talked about just martial arts because that's truly my passion and sharing the values of what real and for you and I traditional martial arts could do for students and why it's kind of fizzling out a slight bit. So, that's something that we could probably talk a little bit about.
yeah, I'm seeing a transition. I mean, I don't know if it'll ever fully go away because you always have UFC, and UFC is so popular. It's more
Right.
popular than boxing now.
Yeah.
But I'm seeing a trend where people are starting to realize that the BJJ. Hopefully, you don't hear my dog. He's going nuts
Hmm.
because the post
I didn't hear
postman.
any. Don't
Okay.
worry. I'm a dog
Um,
guy too. In fact, my dog is sitting on my lap right now, right here. He's This is Ninja. His name is Ninja.
oh, nice, nice.
So he'll just lay next to me on the chair with his head on my lap the whole entire time.
Well, my dog goes nuts whenever an Amazon driver passes by
Right,
or
right.
FedEx driver.
Yeah,
It's crazy.
it is.
But what I was saying is I'm starting to see a trend with people are starting to realize like how, and I'm not saying the martial arts bad. I think every martial art is good in their own way, but they're starting to see a trend with like the BJJ and the Taekwondo. How it's not really used for self-defense. It's more used for tournaments.
Right, right.
Right. And not that you can't learn those arts for self-defense, but they're not the
Focused on.
focus is not for self-defense. It's mainly
Yeah.
for tournaments, right? So I think people are starting to get educated on that. And also a lot of the tradition is lost in those arts, and a lot of the discipline, the traditional discipline, the respect is lost in those arts.
Yeah.
Um, so I think people are starting to realize that where traditional arts like ours and like traditional karate and things like that still have that high level of discipline and tradition, which kids need nowadays.
Yeah, I agree with you, but then there's a part of me that like as a school owner, like I just on November 9th, I just celebrated my 34th anniversary of running my school. Right.
Wow!
Like
Congratulations.
yeah, thank you. I mean, congratulations. And people ask me like, how do I do it? How do I stay motivated? How do I keep on going? Even my wife and daughter ask that. And I find that, that's a whole nother topic we could jump into if you want a little later or on another podcast. But I find that over the years, the value system or what people value about martial arts, the perspective of the client, the parent, the potential student has changed dramatically. So I remember like in the 90s through like 2000 and let's say 5, which was my last trip to Japan, and that's what we're going to talk about too. They the parents were different. Like they come to us because they want their kids to be disciplined. Everyone says that nowadays, but
Hmm.
they don't teach their kids discipline. As they're saying,
Right.
I want my kid to be disciplined, he's smacking them, he's throwing stuff on, like they don't even reprimand their kids for being bad.
Right.
They just, ignore it. So and that's not everybody, but I do find that to be happen a lot more often than not. But
Same.
back in the day, people wanted that Mr. Miyagi sensei, sensei student relationship. They wanted their kids to experience that, and they didn't mind if we were hard on the kids. Like, we didn't give them a belt when they wanted it, or they whined and we said stop whining and get back in there. And they would, and then the kid the next day goes, I don't want to go. They're like, I don't care what you want, get in that friggin' car and go.
Right.
Like it was a different mindset nowadays. Now the minute a kid becomes demotivated in any way, shape, or form, parents are bailing real quickly.
Yeah.
Right? They're like, okay, we'll let them stop. That's okay with me. If he wants to cook, because there's a lot of factors, right? It takes a parent time and effort.
Mhm.
Money, of course, is attached to the pain point where your kids complain and I don't want to do it. And he's giving the parent a hard time. They're going, well, hey, listen, I could save the time, I could save the money, and I could save the aggravation. Quit. Who cares? And then they search for them to find something else that's, going to make them great at something.
Right.
Right.
Right. And but there's nothing out there like martial arts. Obviously, we're biased, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
But, I've played many stick and ball sports
Yeah.
throughout my entire life. I played baseball till the time I was 25,
Yeah.
you
I
know.
played, I also played a long time up until I was like 17, 18.
Right. And don't get me wrong, it did teach me discipline and stuff and taught me teamwork. But martial arts was way different. You know what I mean?
Definitely.
It was way different. I didn't have I've had many baseball coaches throughout the years, and I'm not saying they didn't care, but
Right.
they didn't care as much as my martial arts instructors.
Right.
You know what I mean? And you know, um put in like the one-on-one time with me and things like
Hmm.
that. The baseball coaches put in the time with the team,
Right.
right? But not that one-on-one type of relationship. You know what I
Yeah, you
mean?
know what? And even though, let's pretend like you did your martial arts, but your instructor wasn't like one on one on top of you. Um, it was different still compared to a baseball coach or a football coach because your coach. You never, I don't remember ever saying, I want to be like my coach, like, because he was just a coach. He
Right.
was helping me do what I want to do. But I always remember being like, I want to be like Tanimura Sensei or Shion Vasquez. I want to be like them. I want to work like them, be able to perform like them. And my baseball coach and my gymnastic coach, they really didn't do the stuff, right? They
Mhm.
weren't somebody that I wanted to emulate.
Right.
Right. So there's a difference when parents, by the way, which a lot of parents don't utilize this, is like when they use us and revere us and make sure that the kid looks up to us. Because
Right.
if they do that, then their kid is going to listen more to us
Yeah.
and do what we say and replicate what we do. Right.
Well, yeah, it's funny. I tell parents all the time, like, use me as a you know, I guess like a strategy in parenting or whatever.
Yeah.
Tell your kids, like, say, "Hey, I'm going to tell Lewis Sensei about what you did."
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Because all I have to do, I have really strong connection with certain kids, and all I have to say is, "I'm disappointed in you."
Yeah. Yeah.
And, oh my god, like, they just, like, start bawling,
Right.
and, that's all I have to say. I don't have to yell at them. I
Right.
don't have to discipline them in any way. All I have to
Yeah.
say is, "I'm very disappointed in you. I expect better."
Well, that's because those parents and you, of course, as a teacher and your staff and other instructors that teach in your school have somehow bridged the gap between it just being an activity
Mhm.
and you being a mentor and and like more of a person that they look up to and envy and want to be like, right? And they want to
Right.
emulate. That's where I would had a parent once. He really wasn't the greatest thing for my school, meaning like he always caused trouble and always had something to say behind my back, talk to parents, try to rally them against me. Yet he wanted me to teach his daughter and really take care of her and all this other stuff. And he would argue with me and you go, oh, reverence. You want everyone to revere you because you want to be special and you want people to bow to you. I said, you're missing the entire point on reverence, right? Like, yes, I want the students to revere their senseis, me and the other black belts, for them, not for me, because then the lesson becomes that much more valuable. If I
Right.
say to them, drugs are bad, they're not going to say, that's my parent. Of course they're going to say that. They're going to go, oh wow, Sensei's never drank, he never did drugs, he never did any of this. So I want to be like him. Like my words and my lessons would mean way more if the parents learned how to help their kids revere people,
Right.
right?
Yeah.
Coaches,
Yeah.
teachers. And that's
Yeah.
what's being lost in this day and age, that level of respect for mentors, for coaches, for military, police, like whatever, adults, that's being lost because we're like, we think we could do whatever we want and whatever we want.
Yeah. I see videos all the time, like viral videos of kids in school, like young kids, middle school
Mhm.
kids hitting their teachers
Yeah.
or
Yeah.
cursing at their teachers.
Yeah.
I'm just like, and immediately I don't say, what happened to this kid, I say, what are their parents like?
Yeah.
Immediately that's what I think,
Right.
because
Right.
somehow there's a disconnect with the parenting in that household. You know what
Yeah.
I mean?
Yeah.
So, it's not the kid's fault.
Yeah.
He's just doing what he knows what to, he or she is doing what they know
Yeah.
that
What they've
they're
learned.
allowed to do.
Right. So
Yeah.
let's segue that into our topic, which was Japan, right? And going
Right.
to Japan. You've been there how many times?
4 times.
That's awesome. I've been there
Yeah.
a lot. I think it's 17, right? 17 times. Um, but I remember, like, for me, when I was a kid and I was doing martial arts, I always dreamed of going to Japan.
Mhm.
That's why I really connected with Seagal Sensei, Steven Seagal, when he talked about his story. He went there as a young 17-year-old and lived in Japan, spoke Japanese, like the whole nine. He immersed himself in the Japanese culture, and I always wanted to be that guy, right? So I couldn't go when I was younger. I was in a band. I didn't want to leave and all that stuff. But when I got older and I wasn't in a band anymore, playing rock and roll music, I said I'm going to go as often as I can to train with my teacher, who at the time was Tanimura Sensei from the Gembukan.
Mhm.
But I loved everything about the culture of Japan. Like, I would just ride my bike and go around town and, go to the temples and go to places. And I absorbed as much as I could how they acted, how the culture was, the history and all that. To me, that was like unbelievable. Like, that's why I loved it so much. And I could see the values of that culture, that martial art, especially martial art culture, how it goes so much deeper than just going to class,
Right.
and that's it. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Yeah, even, with, let's just say, the cleaning, you come in to the dojo, you
Yeah.
clean the mats beforehand,
Yeah.
and then you train, and then you clean the mats again after.
Right.
I had a parent literally complain, right? So in our school, the last class, whatever it is, it could be a kid's class, an adult class. Well, I say kids, but if it's the last class, it's usually teenagers, right?
Yeah.
Um, but it could be a teenager class, an adult class. Um, they have to clean, right?
Mhm.
And one, it's part of our tradition, it's part of our culture.
Right.
It shows humility, right? And you're paying your dues, right?
Right.
When I go to Japan, even though I'm a fifth degree black belt, sometimes I have to clean the mats,
Yeah.
right? And that's just what you do, right?
Yeah.
I had a parent complain last week that their teenager was cleaning. Can
Right.
you believe that?
No, I do believe it because I've had it too. And I had a parent say, "I pay you tuition. I don't pay so that my kids could clean." And
Right.
I basically reversed that on them quite easily, and they had like an epiphany. I said, "Let me ask you a question. Does your kid clean his bedroom?" Like, "No, he hardly ever does." I go, "Do you want him to?" "Oh yeah, I would love to." I go, "Then how's he learning not to?"
Right.
And she says, "I don't know. He just won't do it." I said, "Well, I'm teaching him how to give back and do what he should do. And it's a part of the process of being a student is being a helper and helping the dojo and taking care of the school and their sensei and so on."
Right.
And they're like, "Oh, that makes sense." So in their Western mind, in your parents' mind, probably they're thinking slave labor, you're getting my kid to work for free.
Right.
Why don't you pay somebody? You're making money. Like, but they don't realize that the lesson is what the cleaning is.
Right.
Half the time they clean like crap anyway, right? Like, so it's not.
Exactly.
So I'm like, we're not doing it to get cleaning done. We're
Right.
doing it to teach your kids to give back. But the parents don't know this because they've never had seen it or heard it because it's not in our culture.
Right. And that's the same thing, we said to them is like, well, don't you want them to clean their room at home?
Right.
Well, yeah. Well, how do you think they're going to learn that?
Right.
Because if you're not enforcing that at home, that we're enforcing it here. They're
Yeah.
learning how to clean,
Yeah.
and be responsible for the area that they train in.
Yeah.
But like you said, I'd rather just do it myself because I know it's going to be done right. But
Right.
that's not why we do it.
And not deal with the stress of having to explain it to a parent. So I'll just do it myself. Like, I don't want to deal with the stress of it. However, we have a mindset in our school. It's not as easily adapted nowadays than it was 15, 20 years ago, but it's called service before self.
Right.
So like a high rank, hey, you brown belt, come over here and work with the white belt. And then a parent might say, "Oh, I don't know. Why is my kid not getting their class? Why are they not working on their stuff?" And I go, "They are. They're learning how to teach. They're learning how to give
Mhm.
back. They're helping me as one of my senior students. And then quite often we have to explain this because people just don't understand that mindset. It's not part of our culture. It's a gimme culture. Like I wrote an article on Geary. Um, the article's well read by thousands of people, and it was and I then posted the article, and Stephen Hayes from ninjutsu, famous Stephen Hayes,
Mhm.
he wrote to me, Ali, it's more of a gimme, not a Geary society we live in. And I actually rewrote the article and put that in my article because people want. They don't want to give, and give back. Like, people thought I was a brown nose when I was with Tanimura Sensei. He'd get up to go to the bathroom. I'd follow him and stand outside the door. I'd hear people going, "Oh, he's like a brown nose. He wants to stay with Sensei." Blah blah blah. And then Sensei one day told the whole group, he says, "Oh, thank you, Ali, for watching over me, just in case someone caused trouble or tried to hurt me. You were there to protect me."
Right.
Now, every dinner that we did as high-ranking instructors, everyone was fighting to follow him to the bathroom because their eyes were opened up now and they realized I wasn't brown nosing. I was doing what I was supposed to do. And I learned that from when I had my American teachers, right?
Mhm.
So like you'd have to give back. Like I'd often while in Japan on what they called the holiday, right? Yasumi Day, you rest. And, I'd show up at the dojo and Sensei go, "No, today holiday. It's a day off. They're closed." I go, "I know, Sensei. Can I clean?" Now, by the way, I was being selfish because I got to pick up every old artifact sword and naginata and yari and hold them and dust them and get up on a ladder close to the pictures. And, like it was something for me that was quite spiritual, but I was
Right.
giving back to the dojo on my day off. But by the way, I didn't really have much to do anyway. I was living in Japan by myself. So, but I enjoyed it, and you give back.
Right. One of my first martial arts instructors ever, and this will always stick with me. He always told me, "You can get whatever you want in life if you help enough people get what
That
they want."
that's the absolute truth,
Yeah.
right?
So that's always stuck with me. So same thing, my sensei, Ron Sensei, from the Shisenkan. Whenever I'm around him, I always make sure, Sensei, can I carry your bag?
Right,
Sensei, can I carry your weapons?
right.
Sensei, do you need a drink? Sensei, are you hungry? I always ask him, is there anything I can do for you? That's just because, one, it's a nice thing to do. Two, it's a humbling thing to do. And three, like, I see him as a father, right?
Right,
So I want to make sure he's taken care of and
right.
not stressing over anything.
And that's the right way to do things. That's funny because my students, I have like one or two students that still do that. I'm coming from my car and I have a box in my hand. The one student will run out and grab it from me. I'm sweeping, they grab the broom. Right. Everyone else goes, "Hey, Shion," and they walk by as I'm struggling. They don't even hold the door open. They just go, "Hey, Shion," and they walk by as I'm struggling to get the stuff in. And I think that I hold myself responsible for that because I'm not educating them on the way of protocol and etiquette in the Japanese martial arts in my school. However,
Right.
I don't know if a lot of them would even care. Like, at that point that I could tell them, and then the next day I'll be carrying the same box, and they won't do a
Mhm.
thing anyway because they don't dig into the lesson quite as well as they should
Right.
nowadays,
Well,
right? So,
uh, speaking about Japan, I recently taught this to some of my high-ranking students, and I told them, going back to what you just said, educating the students. I told them, I'm like, listen, I shouldn't have to educate the students
right,
on proper etiquette. It should be you guys.
right,
You're my highest ranks. You know better. When we
right,
go to Japan, you know, does sensei educate us on proper etiquette? No, it's usually the high ranks like me telling the lower ranks, hey, you should be doing this, you should be doing that, you should be cleaning. You
right.
know, we're the enforcers. So you guys need to be my enforcers here and let the students know this is the way you need to act, this is the way you need to speak.
Yeah.
You know, you know,
You
I sh-
create that culture.
right, exactly. Like the sensei, the owner of the school should be the last person to discipline the students or discipline the parents.
Right.
It should come from your higher ranks.
Yeah, it doesn't seem genuine either. Like I often say, look, I'm telling you this because it's a lesson. I'm not telling you so you carry my boxes or carry my bag or bring me food and that kind of thing. I say though I'm telling you so you learn the true culture of the martial arts. Like not only should you do that with me, you should do that with your mom and your dad, you should do that with your younger siblings, whoever you care about, your wife, whatever. You do these things to give back to them because not because you're supposed to, technically in the rule book
Mhm.
of supposed to's, right? You're doing it because it's the right thing to do. And within the martial arts, that's super important, right? That's something that
Yeah,
we have to
I would
work
agree.
on and give. And that's what I loved about Japan too. They're very humble. They go out of their way to be nice. They're helpful. And culturally, it's just such I can't explain it in words if you've never experienced it. But if you've experienced it, you know exactly what I'm saying when you go to Japan, how it is over there, how
Yeah.
the people
Yeah.
are, right?
Yep. So what was like training like because I recently just got back from Japan.
Yes.
What was training like for you for you? For me it was training at least 4 to 6 hours a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everything was training when I would go to Japan, right? Like
Hmm.
everything. So, like, the culture, riding around in town, training, being around the Japanese people who aren't martial artists, training, right?
Right.
But like the actual physical side of training, yeah, I mean, I would train with Tanimura Sensei in the morning class, and then I do an evening class, and then we do
Mhm.
it 6 days a week normally, and then sometimes added in on a Sunday we do shuriken and bow shuriken throwing and stuff like that. So yeah, that's all I wanted to do. That's why I was there, right? Like
Mhm.
my students, I took a group once of 17 people to Japan. What a hard thing to do. Like I was
Oh,
so
I can only imagine.
dude, I got so pissed off. Like, let's go out to dinner. Oh, well, there's a McDonald's down the road. I'm like, you can buy McDonald's in Bayshore in my town. We want to go to a Japanese restaurant, at least get some Japanese food and understand the culture and how to act and what to do. Like, they just wanted to sit around, go to a vending machine. Like it was just ridiculous. So they were like searching to get some normalness of what they were used to in their life, and I was embracing the change in the
Right.
culture.
Right.
Right. But yeah, it was like, the training was just like, and I can't even say that it was more intense. Like it wasn't like, because when I went to Japan originally, I trained in a hardcore ninjutsu, American ninjutsu school. We would kick the living crap out of each other, hard cardio workouts, hard physical workouts, really disciplined, military style discipline. And when I went to Japan, it was different. It was respect and discipline and protocol, not necessarily militant discipline, but protocol. You only acted one way and that's it, or else she'd kick you out of the school.
Mhm.
But it wasn't like cardio. We didn't do jumping jack sit-ups and push-ups. Maybe sometimes we do daken, my washi keiko circle. Everyone's in a circle. We're doing, daken, ukegata and mote shuto, right? And we'll do that 30 times each and keep on switching. That was how we warmed up. But I don't ever
Right.
remember like sparring or grappling or fighting. That just wasn't part of the training at all. Right. So in my schools, I would do that as well. Like I'd incorporated all of that on top of what I learned in Japan. But it was just a different experience. Like you came home with a load of technique that you had to practice on your own. You had a lot of stuff that you learned that you had to write down and keep because or else you'd forget it.
Mhm.
It was just a great, great experience. I just loved it.
Yeah. The training was pretty intense. I mean, it's always intense with when sensei's around. That's what I like about sensei. He loves randori, so we're
Yeah.
always whatever we drill in class. There's always a randori section at the end where
Oh,
we're
nice.
yeah we're always doing practical application to it, and
Nice.
sparring and things like that.
Right.
One of my favorite days recently is we were sparring with Shanai.
Oh, cool.
So like with no pads or anything.
Right.
Like
Right. Right.
we were cracking each other and everything.
That's great.
Yeah.
It certainly teaches you how to like block better too. When you're actually getting hit and it hurts, you have to block so you don't get hit.
Exactly. And I was covered in bruises for 2 weeks, like all
Wow.
over. sore. Like I had to put icy hot all over my body like
Yeah.
every night. Sitting in Seiza for hours at a
Oh yeah.
time. That was probably the worst. Like my students don't realize like, there's no sitting on your butt,
Yeah.
over there. It's all in Seiza and
Yeah.
it hurts. You know what I
Oh
mean?
yeah.
Your feet, your legs get numb.
Hmm.
There's a couple times where I just like when we were done, I just had to plop over because like my legs, I couldn't
Late.
stand.
Yep.
Yeah.
I understand. I've been through it.
And Ron Sensei is just like laughing at me. He's like, you're getting old.
Yeah. Well, it's funny
So
too. I remember when I go to Japan, we had an actual originally like a really hard tatami. Their tatami mats are not like the Swain mats that
no.
absorb. They're hard. Like you hit it, it's
Yeah.
not as hard as cement, but it was hard, right? But I would remember after like the first 2 or 3 classes from being in Seiza or doing Swadiwaza or whatever, my legs were raw. Like the skin was like worn off my legs. So I'd like pull my pants up and sit in my apartment with the fan blowing on my legs so it would dry a scab over my knees so that I could do the next class. And then the next day it would just tear right off again until finally by the end of my training, it was all calloused up and better. But yeah, that's kind of like, okay. I remember once I had the gout in my knee, I couldn't bend my leg, right? So I
Right.
told Sensei, I said, Sensei, I can't sit in full Seiza. I have to sit with one leg out. He said,
Right.
okay, no worry. If you need stool, he brought a stool. He said you could sit on the stool. So I'd sit on the floor with one leg out, and inevitably he'd walk behind me and slap me really hard in the head. And I'd
Right.
look up. He said, oh, I forgot. Hurt leg. He did that like 10 times. He just didn't like the fact that I was sitting that way. Even though he allowed me to do it, he would still hit me for doing it.
Right.
Right. So it's like, that's the traditions. Like sometimes I could just imagine that happening in my dojo and then a kid or a teen going home, Mom, Shion hit me in the head. And then they'll come in. Like I once had a conversation recently with one of our moms in the dojo and I gave her advice that I thought would benefit her child. The next thing I knew at the end of the class, the dad was standing there and he wanted to have a meeting with me. I took him in my office. He was mad at me. He said, don't tell my wife how to parent. I said, I thought that was my job as an expert to help you with suggestions on how you could do a good job and help your kid.
Right.
You could teach him martial arts. Don't tell us how to parent. I said, okay, you will never hear another word from me again, ever. I will never go out of my way ever to help give you advice on anything. I'll teach you the technique and that's it.
Well, I bet you $10 if you pulled out their waiver intake form. 'Cause we call it an intake form.
Yeah,
It probably says, "Oh, I need my kid to learn respect,
right.
discipline, all this stuff. Oh, he's talking back, or she, what,
Yeah,
he or she is talking back. He or she is not cleaning their room, not
yeah,
listening the first time. So how are they going to learn?
right. Well, that's the thing though. That's where the big disconnect is.
Right.
Right? They want this, but will they put in the time and effort to get it? And I get it. Look, I also am in the same conversation. I'm going to defend the parents as well because they are overwhelmed, right? Like they're not only do they have martial arts, but they have another sport or two that the kids are doing. Plus they have school and homework and socialization. These kids, like I remember my life was a lot of it growing up was playing baseball in the street, like, digging holes and making a fort, like, going to the martial arts studio, coming home, playing in my band. Like I lived as a kid, like I got a lot to live. Now I see these kids starting at 2, 3 years old. They're like so scheduled. They're so busy. They don't really get a chance to just be kids. Right. And the
Right.
parents want them and they want them to have more than they had. So what do? We give it to them, but it's overwhelming at times,
Right. Right.
so that's a shocker.
Yeah. Yeah. I would agree. What do you have like a favorite story from training in Japan?
I have a million of them, but I have one that I always tell, and I think I put it in my book. In fact, I'm just going to re-release my book. I just came out with 2 books, right? I just released 2 books, but this is, I'll hold it up so people can see. This is a book called The Three Kings. It's an adventure book for kids. This is the old one. Now I just released book 2, right? So I decided I'm going to re-release this and make a new cover and get it refreshed and put it out there. But my other book was this book called 21st Century Ninjutsu, and I'm going to redo that a little, new cover, or maybe I'll look at the information. I don't think I'll change much of it, but in that book, I tell a story where we used to ride our bicycles to Tanimoto Sensei's dojo, and we were over the bridge in Noda City. So it was the middle of winter, snowing, and there was slush on the ground. It was like puddles of slush, right? So I remember riding to the dojo and having my backpack on, and I see this cab driver, Japanese cab driver, not cab driver, truck driver. He's smiling at me, and as he's coming, he swerves into the puddle and creates a wave of slush over my entire body. He was like a very mean guy, right?
Right.
So I shook it off, wiped it off. What could I do? I go to the dojo and I end up at the dojo. It was one of my days where I was just going to, clean and train a little on my own. And I knock on the door, and Sensei comes to the door. He's got a hot cup of ocha, green tea, in his hand, sipping. And he's like, "Oh, why are you here?" And I tell him I'm going to come and clean, and I'm soaked. So I say to him in Japanese, I go, "Woroi o tenki desu ne." That means like it's a bad day. It's kind of a crummy day. He goes, "Oh, no." This is back when the dojo had a rice paddy next to it. And he goes, "Oh, no, beautiful day." And I'm saying, "Yeah, that's because you're inside in your kimono with a hot cup of tea, and I'm out here soaking wet with snow dripping off my face."
Right.
And he goes, I go, "No, Sensei, bad day." He goes, "I got covered." He goes, "No, good day." He goes, "The snow will melt and fill my rice paddies. And then I grow rice for my family. And then I feed my family for the whole year with all the rice that we grow." He says, "So today is a beautiful day." And I'm like, yeah, it's easy for you to say in my head, like, because you're not soaking wet and cold. But I got what he said, though. Like, there's always positives and negatives. So that was a really cool story for me to tell my students, because like what we think, what we feel might be bad is really not as bad as we make it out to be sometimes. And we just got to look for the positive in everything. And that was a Mr. Miyagi moment where I learned a really good lesson from my teacher, and it wasn't physical wrist locks or punches or kicks. It was just something that was in like 1993.
Right.
So it stuck with me for 22 years. I'm still telling the story.
That's awesome. That's why it irks the crap out of me when students quit because it's too hard.
Yeah.
For those that are not watching us and just listening,
right.
I'm holding up air quotes. Too hard. Like you've never been to Japan. You've never trained for 4 to 6 hours a day, sitting in Seiza for hours, getting cracked with a Shinai, getting cracked with Boken, you're coming to class for 2 hours a week, and it's too hard.
Mm-hmm.
Like I'm just like, where do we go wrong in society? You know what I mean?
Well, we certainly trended downward when it came to that. It's just like anything else, kids nowadays, they don't want to work physically.
Yeah.
Like, for me, my first real job was a landscape business, and I owned my own company, and I worked hard. But I kind of got a satisfaction out of that. Like, I really felt good about a hard day's worth of work. Nowadays, everyone's looking to get the easiest way. That's why it's very easy for these social media influencers to lure people in to buy their free program where they're going to make $180,000 a month on stock trading or that next new trend, because people want the easy way out and they want to take it easy and not do the hard work. And I believe parents want that for their kids too. Because like even me, I work so hard. I don't want my daughter to have to go out and landscape for a living and work hard in the fields, right? I want her to, get a college degree, which she did, get a great job, which she did. She's in the other office, in her bedroom office, working virtually right now, making a really good living. But it's also not as satisfactory from my view. Like, she's stuck on the computer all day long working, doing numbers and stats and sales and all this other stuff. With me, I got to go out and experience the world a little more from a physical aspect, right? Because I wasn't a corporate person.
Right. I think all parents, want their children to be successful. That's obvious, right? If you truly love them, you want them to be successful. but most parents don't want to see their kids struggle in any way.
Yeah.
And nobody died from struggling.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, you need to struggle, you need to fail a little bit to learn. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's how humans learn. It's a natural way of learning. And until we get back to those roots, I'm very scared for the younger generation and how they're going to react to real world problems
Right.
once they get their, first job or whatever, or go
Well,
off on their own to
look
college,
at society now and just go on Instagram and see any post, whether it be about politics or abortion or whatever. People can't agree to disagree. They can't. They can't be happy within themselves that other people have differences of opinion.
Mhm.
They can't. They're not happy that it's not their way. They're gonna kick and scream and cry, right? Like, I remember we would grow up when I was younger. I mean, we're talking about, between the 70s and, mid 80s.
Mm.
If we didn't like something, didn't like someone, we would fight it out. Like, we'd meet at a place in my high school called the Bridge. I call you out, Lewis. I'm gonna meet you at the Bridge today at 3 o'clock. You accept? Yeah. Okay, good. We're going to fight. And we would fight. Like, it was,
Right.
real fighting, not like, slap fighting or fun. I mean, we would beat the crap out of each other most of the time, which 99% of the time I won because I had skills. Like, I learned martial arts. Most people, they didn't know how to fight. You
Right.
either knew how to fight or you didn't back in the day. Now everyone's got a kind of well-rounded idea of fighting. But anyway, we would go there and we'd fight it out. And then the next day we'd be friends because now we took our licks. And even if I beat the kid up and that kid did well, I respected him more for it. Right. Like,
Right.
so I'm not saying fighting is the solution. I'm just saying that it was a different era. Nowadays, it's like I had a kid just recently tell me that he was on the bus and some kid who picks on him regularly, he's like, leave me alone. I don't want to have anything to do with it. The kid started choking him. So finally, he got to the point where that was it. So he blocked the hand away and punched him like a few times in the face. Now he's in trouble. There's a no tolerance to bullying and fighting, So I said, listen, and his parents are cool. So I said to the parents, I go, what do you think? They go, no, I'm glad he defended himself. I'm like, good, because my mom said if I got picked on and I fought back and I got suspended, she'd let me stay home and I could play my guitar all day. She wasn't mad at me because I at least stood up, and I would stick up for people all the time that were bullied and get in trouble. And my mom's like, why'd you do this? Well, so-and-so was getting picked on. I couldn't say, okay, no problem. Go play your guitar, take a week off, like she wasn't mad at me.
Yeah. And that's a good lesson. Nobody used to die from a little fighting, right? I think kids need to defend themselves. I think they're scared to because they're going to get in trouble.
Right.
And a kid shouldn't be picked on constantly and then not be able to defend themselves because it really ruins their
self-esteem,
their whole psychology in life.
Yeah.
They're just going to be taking a beating they're not going to be able to defend themselves when that coworker starts picking on them or bullying them in the workplace or whatever.
Right.
Not going to be able to stand up to that jerk boss. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
but I also think that you develop grit, right? Like, so if you're picked on, no one wants to come into work or school. And like, I was picked on and bullied my whole life. Like, and unfortunately for most of the bullies, they got beat up because I knew how to fight. So there was like a running thing in my high school. Like, I had long hair. I was in a band, and I had long hair. And there was like a running poll at the beginning of the year that people would put money in. If anyone could beat me up in a fight and cut my ponytail, they'd win this pot of money. Well, no one ever won the pot of money. And I fought a lot. Like, I really fought a lot. Like, it was not, I'm not proud, but I'm not embarrassed by it. But it was, I got my practice in. I got real life experience to be able to fight for real. But you know what, though, nowadays it's literally like, you don't just get picked on in school. They follow you on the internet. They talk to you about you on Instagram and Facebook and social media and TikTok. And then Like my daughter, she once made a mistake. She was talking to a bunch of friends on her phone. She's probably like 10 or so. And they asked her if she's watching the football game. And we don't really watch football. She says, no, that's a dumb thing. That was really not the smartest thing to say. It was dumb because they were football fans. But they went on to pick on her. Like everyone now is texting her. And she's like, no, let's leave it alone. I just don't like, she was trying to explain herself. Finally, I'm like, Kiara, go to bed. And her phone is still buzzing with people, like 25 people commenting, being mean to her. So finally, I had to say, I said, this is Kiara's dad. The next person who texts me, you're going to hear a knock at your door. I'm going to come to your house and I'm going to beat up one of your parents. Right. And boom, silence. Like they were abusive until they understood that they could no longer be abusive, and they were just going to keep on picking on her. And then I said, if this continues in school the next day, same thing's going to happen. And that was it. It was over and done with. But she, as a poor kid, could have tried to live with it, and they would have just kept going and lived with it and kept going. And it was sad and frustrating to see how abusive people are.
Right.
So
what about do you have like a story of like a like training situation in Japan, like maybe where it was like very difficult, like a difficult day, or maybe like a technique, or maybe you were working with Tanimura on something and he kept like beating you up about it, or
yeah. I'll tell you another fun story. It's not really martial arts, but it's martial arts in my mind. Mm-hmm. But I can't say, like, Tanimura Sensei was different than my American teachers. They would beat me physically and mentally, and I loved them for it. Like, I broke my nose 4 times. I got hit in the face. They were hard on me, really hard on me. Throw me on the concrete, full blast. Like, now I wake up and I'm like, oh, my body, my back, because of all that physical abuse. But I have to tell you, I would not go back in time and change that, because that's what made me who I am today. And, business wise, financially, all of that stuff I went through created who I am as a person today. However, Tanimura Sensei was always really kind. Like the first time I fell in love with him was when he grabbed me in a wrist lock and pinned me, and I was tapping. And then when he let go, he grabbed my wrist, massaged it, smiled. He says, oh, you're very strong. And I'm like, wow, it wasn't like a beating. And then I had to walk away and just live with it. He kind of fixed me up and made sure I felt it, but didn't want to hurt me. He kind of had a kindness in his heart. Right. But here's my fun story. So I was with my 17 students, and we go to Nikko Mountain, which you just trained in Nikko. I love that place. We would go, Sensei would take me there every trip. At the time, there was wild monkeys where all the people were. I don't know if it was like that when you went, but they would steal people's keys and pocketbooks and all this stuff.
Not.
Yeah, they were like bad. So they had to start feeding them up in the mountains so they wouldn't come down to the people and try to steal stuff. Mm-hmm. So there was this one king monkey. Like I have pictures of him. He was like, it looked like he was maybe like a baboon with fangs and everything. So here's the funny story. We are in the van, and my one student, Anthony, who's now an ex-Navy SEAL, 3 kids of his own, 2 tours of duty in Iraq and all that. And he was with me, and he has a banana. So we're in the van, doors closed. He breaks the banana off and sticks half of it in his pocket. So we slide the door open, and I swear to you, this monkey was 100 foot away. Within a second, the monkey was at the door. So Anthony, as he steps out, the monkey looks at him and hisses, grabs his pants and pulls them down, and reaches in the pocket and takes the banana, and he drops the other banana that he had in his hand, and the monkey picks it up, holds it up like stupid man, and he walks away. Like he said, like, you don't have anything on me. But that monkey, though, I met him another time. He actually grabbed my finger, and I was with Tanimura Sensei, and he squeezed it. My finger was white, like so tight, this grip of this, it was strong. Like, so Sensei says, do not look away. Stare him in the eyes, but not aggressively. That monkey stared at me for like 25 minutes. I had to stare there until finally he said, okay, you lost and I won. And then he let go and just walked away. Like he was testing me. And I was scared the whole time. Like this thing could have shredded me like in a second. And I'm like, oh my God, what am I going to do? Like, and Sensei said, just stay there. Don't be aggressive. Don't be tense. Just let him hold your finger. And I was like, my heart was racing. And then finally I was like, you know what? He's not going to harm me, but he's showing me who's the king monkey, like who's in charge.
That's
and
crazy.
Then finally he let go and walked away. And I was like, those trips for me were sometimes better, those things better than 10 different, Don level techniques that I just learned.
Right. That's crazy. That's a
Yeah.
great story.
I
Yeah.
have a picture actually. I don't have it here, or else I'd hold it up to the camera, but I have that monkey in my photo album because someone snapped a picture of me
Wow.
with it. Yeah, it's very cool.
That's
But
cool.
yeah, so to me, like those memories are endless, and that's why martial arts and tradition is so important for these kids.
Right.
Not just
Right.
show up to class 3 times a week for 45 minutes, go home, don't compete, don't go to the tournament, don't come to the holiday party, just do 3 days a week. Let's get out whatever we could get out as minimally as we can and move on to the next activity.
Right.
The parents don't realize how much they're missing out on, like how much they have at their fingertips that they're not taking advantage of.
I tell that to my students all the time. I'm like, listen, like I understand like everybody's financial situation is different, right?
Right,
Um, and some people can't sometimes afford the extra stuff, but
right.
that's why we always schedule things way ahead of time. Like if we're going to
Right.
Japan, people know a year in advance.
Yeah.
I
Right.
have teenagers that go to Japan that work part-time
Yeah.
and save their money and pay for themselves. So
Yeah.
there's really, hardly no excuse why you can't go, but
Yeah.
it changes you after you go to a trip like that. Like
Without a doubt.
you become a better person, you
Yeah.
become a way better martial artist.
Yeah.
And I always tell them like if you want to be great at this, um you need to do the extra things.
Dig
You know what I
in.
mean? You have to dig in, you have to soak up everything that we offer here.
Right.
If you just want to be, mediocre, you just want to like, just get by, then yeah, just do your 2 classes a week and you can get by.
Right.
But don't don't look at the person to your right and be like, well, why don't I know as much as that person? Or why
Yeah.
can't I move like them? Or why don't I understand the material like them? It's
Yeah.
because the person to your right is putting in the extra work that you're not seeing.
Yeah, you know what's funny? I like my demo team, right? They train extra days during the week. They do their minimal classes, then they do like 2 extra practices a week. They go to 6 tournaments a year. They perform and they compete, right? And people always say things like, "Oh, those kids are so talented. They're so lucky to be that talented." I go, "It's not luck. They just put in the extra time and they get out." Like I'm going to admit to this. I don't know if it matters, but I'm going to admit that I was never a talented martial artist, just like I'm not a talented guitar player. Like I'm not a natural. Like you don't show me something and I get it, but I'm tenacious and stubborn. So I will drill that drill 7,000 times until I get it down. And then once I have it, because it took me 7,000 times to get it, now I got it. Right. And
Right.
the same thing with martial arts. Like I never gave up and I had to go always extra and above and beyond to learn the movements. And I consider my stubbornness a part of my benefit, right? Of why I never quit. Nowadays, oh, I'm bored. He's bored. How could he be bored? He sucks. Like I want to tell parents that all the time. Like I hate to be mad and say something negative, but how could that kid be bored when he's lazy? He doesn't train. He doesn't put any effort forward. Yeah, he's bored. That's how he's been raised, or that's our society. Now let's teach him to have that grit and tenacity. And then he's going to become amazing. And let me tell you, he will beam with pride that he worked through the difficult times and now he became something, right? And I'd say a good majority of my kids in my school, they're lazy. They don't train super hard. I could tell them what to do, show them what to do, encourage them what to do, motivate them, make it fun. And they're like, I'll just do it.
Man, listen, you're preaching to the choir. I have brown belts, brown belts that are one belt away from black, right?
Right.
And we will provide them with, training material, videos, everything and anything to get them to the next level, which is
Right.
black belt.
Right.
And they don't practice at home.
Yeah.
They don't do anything, and then they expect us to just give them a black belt.
Yeah.
Just because of the time they put in.
Yeah.
No, you have to show me that you know how to be a black belt, right?
Right.
You have to show me that you know what you're doing. You have to show me, like, yeah, you got all the way to brown, right?
Yeah.
But there's a difference between a Q level student and there's a difference between a black belt student. You
Yeah.
have you have to act and look the part. It's not about the time you put in.
Yeah.
That's part of it, right? The
Right. Of
time you put
course.
in. But it's not all that. You have to show that, you know, look, I am a black belt. I am skilled. I know what I'm doing. I know what I'm talking about.
Right.
Because, if I give you a black belt and then I ask you to help out another student,
Yeah.
I need to know that you know what you're talking about.
Right. And
Right?
also that you're willing to do it.
Exactly.
And you care that you're and feel honored and privileged that you were picked by me or you to help that other student,
Right.
right? Don't
And
feel like you didn't get it. Yeah, that's an advantage.
yeah, and it's like, we give them almost every opportunity. We've even like provided free private lessons
Hmm.
for people to get them up to speed
Yeah.
in the past. And it's like, I'm sorry, but I can't hold your hand anymore, any more than
Right.
I do. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
I
Like
always
you
tell I always tell kids, I can't unzip your skin and put it on and become you so that you could learn the move. I go, I can only tell you. And I had this happen to me the other day in class where I'm teaching this and I'll explain it. And I bet you most 90% of the people listening will figure it out. We're in a fighting stance, left leg, lead forward, left hand. So I said, okay, we're going to front kick with the left, and then we're going to land and jab with a quick left jab and then a right cross, like a sparring technique. So I show it from different angles over and over again. I say practice. A lot of people don't get it. I start it again. I explain it again. And then I have a kid, an older kid, like 14 years old. He's doing rear leg, right hand, left hand. And I'm like, that's not at all what I just did. Let me show you. And I actually grab his hand. I go, this hand's first, the leg kick with that leg first, then the hand, then the punch. Right away, he does it wrong again. I'm going, tell me, buddy, I don't mean to be mean, but is there something wrong with you right now? Like you don't understand what I'm saying? No, no, I understand. Then why aren't you doing it correctly then? Why aren't you even putting the effort forward to go, okay, left hand, left leg, right? Like, and I wonder, like, years ago, I would show that technique 3 times and everyone in the class would get it. Now, I
right.
don't know if it's because kids are used to learning on iPads and watching so much TV and being connected through computers, but it's not as easy to teach methodology nowadays. People forget it and they don't practice at home, so they just forget it.
Yeah. No, I agree. Uh I had like this window up.
I saw it. I could see it on the screen.
Yeah.
We got a great comment from very famous full contact fighter, martial art legend, Shidoshi Nathan Ingram. He actually wrote a book called The Nathan Ingram Story, and they actually are doing a movie on him on Netflix.
Oh wow.
And he actually had me in his movie, so I play a small part in the movie. Not a part. It's not like a movie. It's a documentary, and they asked me about Japan and the culture and the history and the protocol. So like I'm doing now, I'm sharing some of my stories, and hopefully it'll make it into the movie.
Oh, that's
Yeah, but
sweet.
he's a legend. And he's on our podcast right now, which is cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So I know we're running out of time. What would you leave the listeners with when it comes to maybe like positives about training in Japan and differences? And then I'll do the same.
I obviously the positives are just the culture. Like you
Mm,
said, like everything's training over there.
yeah.
Like from the time you step out of the airport and into the subway,
Yeah.
you learn how different the culture is there and
Yeah.
why there's such a disciplined society.
Yes.
The Americans can learn a lot from the Japanese,
Yeah.
in the sense of just being good people. You
Right.
know what I mean? And
Agree.
courteous,
I
right?
agree.
So, and customer service is number one over there. Like you
Right.
can literally walk into a 7-Eleven and you think you're at a five-star establishment,
Yeah. Yeah.
you know, because the workers there actually care about your experience
Yeah.
at the 7-Eleven, you know.
Mhm.
Um and just again, if you've never trained in Japan and you do a Japanese martial art, I highly recommend you go there and train.
Yeah.
It just you're going to come back a totally different person. You're going to be a better martial artist, and not just technique wise, but just like a greater person in general.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I have
yeah,
a mother that runs in the Tokyo Marathon. So she goes there twice a year and runs, and her and her son, who's one of my blue belts, and the husband, they absolutely love it over there. They're like, I think we want to move there. It's just such a nice place.
yeah.
So
I would move there.
yeah, I definitely I just went on a big long trip to London and France, And my next two trips that are in my mind is Japan, maybe Italy first, because my wife and daughter want to go to Italy, and then Japan. But I'm like, we have to go to Japan because they think of it as all martial arts and people like, but I'm like, you'll never experience another place that's the country and the people and the culture and how clean it is. Like you could
Yes.
literally eat off the floor in the subway. Like you drop a pizza, you pick it up and just no
Yeah.
dust, you just eat it
Yeah.
because it's spotless.
Yeah.
Right? Like
That's true.
it's such a great like, and again, that goes back to taking pride in their job. The person who cleans that subway or whatever it was, he takes pride. He's scrubbing, cleaning, and so on.
I had somebody ask, I can't remember if it was a parent or a student, but I had somebody ask me, is there, because they, when they think of Subway, they think of like New York or
Right,
whatever.
right.
And they're like, is there graffiti? Like, and
Nope.
I'm like, hell no. You know what I
No.
mean? That would never fly in Japan.
Even this is the amazing thing. We were driving back in a minivan from wherever we were sightseeing, and I saw a whole bunch of tents and things on the side of this like riverbed. And I said, "Oh, Sensei, is that like camping?" Like it was like clean and pristine and perfect. And they go, "No, no, those are homeless people. Like they were spotless. Like I'd even seen homeless people in boxes. That you live in a box.
Mhm.
The box was pristine, and they had multiple boxes connected, and a mat where they take their shoes off before going into their box to sleep." Like it was just the pride. And what that basically says is that the pride of their culture is embedded in them since they were born.
Yeah.
So even as homeless people, they were taking their shoes off because that's what you do in that culture. So
Hmm.
it was quite amazing. For me, I think the biggest thing that I loved about Japan was not only the food and the culture, but it was the history. Like, going to the jinja, the temples or the shrines, or right, did you go to Asakusa or Asakusa, the mall, the outside mall with the
Not
temple?
not this time, but I have been there.
Yeah, that was
Yeah.
one of my favorite places. It's like a huge mile-long flea market, right, with all different shops, and at the very end is a temple, and everyone goes and prays at the temple. That was one of my favorite things. But people were just so, I don't know, spiritual and friendly and nice and incredible. Like
Yeah.
to me, I'd go there and I'd like just decompress
Yeah.
from everyday life.
Yeah, that's a huge one too that I forgot to mention. It's like when you're there, like even though, obviously you're not training the whole time, you don't think about your worries back home
Right.
or anything. You're just so you're in you're everything is like zen like. You know what
Yeah.
I mean? Everything is peaceful there,
Yeah.
you know.
Well, that's
So
because their lifestyle is about that. Like, the old story of the Japanese person who's really frustrated will grab a pillow and go into the closet and cover his face and scream and then come out and be like, "Oh, hi, how are you?" Like they don't want to, they don't believe that they should put their thing on you.
right.
Like they won't complain, they won't vent, they won't backtalk, they won't be like no drama because they won't share their frustrations and problems with someone else because they believe that's not their job. It's not fair to do that.
Right.
Like in our society, man, you can't stop people. That's what they live for is the
Hmm.
drama.
Hmm.
Just
Yep.
look at any reality TV show. It's all about the drama. That's what
Right.
keeps people interested. Like it's like to me, sometimes I'm like, I can't. Like my wife watches the Housewives of whatever. There's like 30 of them, and I'll sometimes sit down and be like, "How do you watch this?" She goes, "Oh, it just makes me feel so much better about my life." She says,
Oh wow.
right, because she's watching all the crap and what they do, and she's like, "I got it made. I'm happy. Like this.
Right.
This puts it all in perspective, right?"
Right. Right.
All right,
Cool.
awesome. Well, we ran out of time. You have a trip, right? You're going on? Are you going
Uh
away you're going somewhere you said on Friday, Saturday or something?
Yeah, I'm going racing. So
Oh, cool.
so I'll be down in North Carolina racing cars, trying to win
Nice.
some money and stuff. So
Good.
yeah, just a quick trip. I'm excited. I'm more excited about the weather because it's supposed to be 80
Oh,
down
wow.
there.
Nice.
So yeah,
Is it cold by you right now?
it's like low 50s.
Yeah, that's what we got the same weather strip right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, so yeah, winter's coming, so we got to get used to it for the next few months and just live with it.
Yeah.
I always say if we get a blizzard, I just stay home.
Yeah.
I have enough food to last for a few weeks in the house if I couldn't come out. So I'm happy.
The
As long as I got my streaming networks, I'm good.
Yeah, the only thing that makes me happy about a blizzard is I have 2 huskies and they love the snow. So
Oh,
I
that's
like I
great.
like watching them play in the snow and stuff.
Nice.
They it's like it gives them superpowers or something.
Awesome. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's their nature. That's
Yeah.
that's who they are.
Yeah.
All right, dude. Thank you so much for putting this together and having me on. And I'd like to do more of these. So I'm excited to just talk about martial arts.
Yeah. Me too.
All right.
Until next time.
All right. Take care, everybody.
See ya.
Bye.
Sayonara.